Today, we're going to talk about the literature role of travel tracer. The focus of a travel tracer is someone who focuses on the setting of a story or where and when a story takes place. And so, while we're reading our World War II novels, we're really going to be focusing on where our character starts in the story and where they go through and end in a story. Today, we're going to use a story called Number the Stars by Lois Lowry. And our main character in this story, she lives in Copenhagen. Copenhagen is in Denmark. And when we're thinking about countries and we're looking at our map, a lot of our stories will take place in Germany or Poland or closer up towards Russia. But in this one, we take place in Denmark. So I'm going to color in the whole country of Denmark. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a star next to the city. Now, I didn't know where Copenhagen it was. I had to Google it, and so I looked it up, and I put a little star next to where my character takes place. Sometimes you won't know where or what city a character lives in. So you just have to kind of use your best judgment. If a character moves throughout a story, then you're going to want to put dotted lines on their path on how they got from one place to another. After you've mapped out where your character is, then you're going to focus on the setting of the story, or specifically specific detail of the setting. So in our instructions, it says, draw out a part of the setting that was important in this section of the book. This could be a scene where the most action took place, a place that stood out to you as suspenseful. Make sure you draw with detail and write 4 details on the picture from the text to describe where and when the story takes place. Include page numbers. So I have an image down here. Now I didn't draw my image, but what I did is I took one of the most suspenseful parts of the first chapter. And I wrote it down below. It says, when running down the street, the girls are stopped by a Nazi officer. So they were racing each other and they get told to stop by this Nazi officer. But I also wanted to pull out details around the event to kind of paint a mental movie or mental image of what's happening. So what I did was, as I look and I saw it said she sped along the street called Osterbrigade, which that was on page 2. So I know they're outside. I know they're on the street as they're running. The next detail, it says, from the corner of her eye, she saw the shopkeeper move quietly into the shadows of the doorway out of sight. So I know that there are other people around the setting, and that the street has shops on it. It's not a neighborhood in the sense that there's a bunch of people living, but this is actually more like the city where the shopkeepers take or where the shopkeepers work. Christie walked between them toward the large apartment building where both families lived. So now I know my characters live in an apartment building and not a house or a condo. And that really helps give me an idea of what kind of life they live. And then finally, the Copenhagen neighborhood was quiet. People coming and going from shops, children at play, soldiers on the street. Out of all the quotes, this one definitely paints the best picture of what kind of neighborhood our main characters live in.